I'm Paul Levinson, and welcome to Light On, Light Through, episode 122. Patrick Rands debuts Welcome Up in Boston. Well, fans of this podcast may recall that back in 2010, we had an episode 79, in which I played for you the interview that Patrick Rands did with me on WZBC Radio on his show then called Test Patterns in June 2006. Well, just a couple of days ago, I was back up in Boston at WZBC Radio with Patrick Rands. I also had the pleasure of meeting Carl Thean, who has the show before Patrick. Patrick's still doing a great show. He changed the name of it to Abstract Terrain. And we did about a 90-minute interview in which Patrick played almost all the songs from my new album, Welcome Up, Songs of Space and Time. And he also played some tracks from Twice Upon a Rhyme and, well, all kinds of surprises. So I'm going to play the whole interview for you now. And if you want to follow along with the set list or the songs that Patrick played, just go to this episode's podcast page. That's at lightonlightthrough.com. I'll spell that for you, lightonlightthrough.com. And you'll be able to see the titles of all the songs, who wrote them, when they were written, and all that good stuff. But now, here's Patrick Rands on WZBC Radio.
Hello, you're listening to WZBC Newton, Abstract Terrain, and tonight we have Paul Levinson in the studio. How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing great.
All right. So Paul is here because he put out a new album. Now, what's going on? What's the deal with putting out a new album?
Well, you know my previous album, right? Twice Upon a Rhyme?
Yeah.
It came out in 1972. And what I like to say is I had a master plan back then.
Oh, really?
Bring out the album. It's 1972. But, you know, competition is always stiff. You know, the Beatles obviously had just recently broken up. Their records were still playing, and it's wonderful music all over the radio and everybody else. So I knew it would take a little time
to be up to snuff.
Yeah, exactly. So that's when I hatched this plan to wait. It's a good story, isn't it? That's when I hatched this plan to wait almost 50 years for my second album to come out. Okay, so that's the story. I like that story.
Yeah.
But the true story is the album Twice Upon a Rhyme did come out in 1972. And I remember very clearly it was a hot, sultry day in August 2018 when I got an email from someone, his name is Chris Hoisington, who said, hey, you know, I've been a fan of your music for a long time, and I'm also a fan of your science fiction. And I don't know if this makes any sense to you, but have you ever thought of recording an album of your music and the lyrics would all be science fiction, maybe even based on some of your novels? Now, if I had never thought about that at all, I would have just bald-facedly lied and said, oh, yeah, of course. But the truth is I had thought about it from time to time, and I had, over the years, written some science fiction songs. Anyway, by the time that conversation was finished, I found out that Chris Hoisington and his brother Anthony Hoisington had a small record label located in Buffalo, New York, with a really cool studio. I didn't know how cool it was until I went up there and recorded the new album in Batavia, New York. And so by the end of October, early November, my wife Tina and I drove up from New York City to Batavia, and we recorded what would become Welcome Up, my new album.
That's amazing. I didn't know there was the whole like sci-fi part to it too.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting thing because, people always say to me, not even talking about my music, how is it that you're a professor, you write stuff about the evolution of media, but you're also a science fiction writer?
Yeah.
And I always tell them, well, the two are really connected. And in fact, people who don't like my scholarly work often say it reads like science fiction. Levinson is out of his mind. But people who don't like my science fiction sometimes say, there are too many, deep ideas in here and so on. But I always take that as a compliment. And the music is just a third part of that same thing. To me, they're all related. I mean, if I'm writing a science fiction story or novel, and the words are really flowing, it's almost as if it's singing to me, and that's why it was very natural for me to begin writing science fiction music.
Yeah, what I found interesting is it kind of fits into the world of psychedelic music. Even though it sounds very poppy, a lot of it, what you're singing, when you listen closely, you're like, wait, this is getting pretty weird.
It is pretty weird. And, getting back to Twice Upon a Rhyme, if you think about the song, The Llama Will Be Late This Year, I just made up a whole story.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw a headline in a newspaper, Ed Fox and I, he wrote the music, I wrote the lyric, and it said the llama will be late this year. The real Dalai Lama was going to be late this year. And we, looked at each other, and I said, hey, man, this is a great title for a song. And I made up this whole, idiotic story. But, we had a lot of fun doing it. And if you think about, even though traditional love songs, the idea that you meet someone and you feel like you've already known them, there's like a science fiction element right there. Because what does it mean that you already knew them? If you never met them before, you couldn't literally already know them, but yet it's a real feeling.
Yeah.
And so,
I love how you twist it together in the songs.
Yeah.
So we're going to listen to a couple songs from your new album. Actually, pretty much the whole album tonight. So
works for me.
Yeah. So, but I put in a special order that I hope you like.
Okay.
So we're going to start off with Samantha.
Ah, good old Samantha.
So this is Paul Levinson from his new album that's coming out soon, Welcome Up, with the song Samantha.
Samantha, can't you see? There's no way loving me is gonna work for you. Yeah, that's sad but true. Samantha, fantasy is so sweet when it's free. Oh, what our blues past do, not much we can do. Come from an alternate dimension. That's what makes you so appealing. That's what puts me on the ceiling. my story till I'm no longer away. Round Alpha Centauri, there's no need to worry. My love will go stronger each day. Round Alpha Centauri, you're still the most beautiful star. Around Alpha Centauri, our love can reach that far. Our love can reach that far.
Think of a place far away as can be, and I'll still be thinking of you. Way out in space, beyond any sea, you'd still be the dream that was true. Round Alpha Centauri, you're still the most beautiful star. Round Alpha Centauri, our love can reach that far. Our love can reach that far. Light years from home, far away as can be, but I could be back in a flash. Worlds that I've known mean nothing to me. Hey baby, you don't have to ask. Round Alpha Centauri, you're still the most beautiful star. Round Alpha Centauri, our love can reach that far. Our love can reach that far. From Alpha Centauri, I sing you my story till I am no longer away. Round Alpha Centauri, there's no need to worry. My love will grow stronger each day. Round Alpha Centauri, you're still the most beautiful star. Round Alpha Centauri, our love can reach that far. Our love can reach that far.
Hello, you're listening to WZBC Newton, and we're listening to Paul Levinson's new album, Welcome Up, Songs of Space and Time. And he's in the studio right now. Now, we just heard the demo for one of the songs that ended up on the album. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, first of all, Peter Rosenthal, whose voice you heard in that demo, is going to be thrilled when he hears it because I hate to say this, but, you know, he's entitled to his opinion. He wrote the music to this. I wrote the lyrics. He told me he prefers his original demo.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So, but listen, you know, people always feel comfortable with what they first experienced. In his case, he wrote the music. But Pete Rosenthal, or Peter Rosenthal, as he likes to now be called, as you know, Patrick, he played guitar on just about every track of Twice Upon a Rhyme. And we also co-wrote a song even back then, Antique Shop, the coming of winter. And by the way, that was decades before Game of Thrones, and winter is coming. So
that might be one of the songs I'm playing later, too.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
I'm digging a little deeper on that album.
Right, good. Yeah, because that song is rarely talked about. Anyway, so we did this again, Twice Upon a Rhyme, the early 70s. And Peter and I were in touch for a couple of years after that. But then, life goes on. Everyone went their separate way. Peter became a dentist. It was like pulling teeth to get in touch with him. And we sort of completely fell out of context until I was on a show in 1999, December 1999, in which science fiction writers were talking about what was going to happen in the new millennium. Yeah. And Pete saw that on television, and he tracked down my email, sent me.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And we got back in touch. And pretty much the first thing I did is I said, hey, Peter, why don't we write some songs together? And I sent him the lyrics to I Knew You by Heart, which I just wrote then. And also, right around then, a new novel of mine was just about ready to be published, Borrowed Tides, about the first starship to Alpha Centauri. And so I had Alpha Centauri in my blood, so that's when I wrote the lyrics to Alpha Centauri. I sent those to Pete. I'll tell you something else. He didn't like them at first. He said, what kind of
what
song
the heck is this?
Exactly. I said, try it, you'll like it. And then he wrote the song and loved it. But then he loves only his version of it. But that's okay.
Now, and it was just a demo, though? That's all? It just kind of sat around until now for this album. So this is like its first real release. That's
right. The only other appearance the song made is I came out with an album of my demos that some I had recorded before Twice Upon a Rhyme, some after. I called it Spun Dreams, and I stuck on that album just, for the fun of it. I asked Peter to send me the track of Alpha Centauri. So there's another version, yet a third version of Alpha Centauri with the track you just heard, but me singing it. I think in a much more lively way. And that's the track that I sent to Chris Hoisington, who produced Welcome Up. And what happened was I said, hey, well, this is obviously a science fiction song. He said, yeah, I love it. Let's do it.
All right, cool. All right, so we're going to hear another song from your new album. This one is Picture Postcard World from Paul Levinson's Welcome Up, Songs of Space and Time, here on WZBC.
Two people lounging in an air-conditioned room filled with push-button perfume and plastic petals, always in full bloom. Well, two people gazing at a 90-inch screen, living color fills the scene in electric shades of morning and serene. From a high-tech shape, just like Grandma used to make. And for dinner, there'll be cybernetic steak. Two people playing hard at all the latest sports, up and down the plasmic courts. A sound man must dwell in a sound body, of course. Yeah. Everything's perfect, but nothing is real. Our lives seem ideal.
You're listening to WZBC Newton, and we have Paul Levinson in the studio with us now. He has a new album that's coming out on Old Bear Records called Welcome Up, Songs of Space and Time. So now, up next, Paul, we're going to be playing If I Traveled to the Past. Now, can you tell me a little bit about this song? This one, it's like a head spinner.
Song. Yeah. Well, first of all, as some people out there know, probably I'm best known in my science fiction as a writer of time travel stories.
Okay.
So The Plot to Save Socrates, time travel. I had a story, the chronology protection case, in which the universe was killing scientists who were trying to invent time travel. I've always loved time travel because it leads to paradoxes, and that's what makes it so much fun. So, in 2010, a guy by the name of Larry Ketchersid, hi Larry if you're listening, basically he had published some of my books in a small press that he had started, and he said to me, hey, I don't know if you know about this guy, John Anealio. He is a songwriter, and, he's written some songs, and, he plays guitar, has a good voice. But, it occurs to me that you and he could make good songwriting partners because his music is good, his lyrics are good, but I think, you really have a sense of how to write a good lyric. I said, okay, sure. So we didn't even meet, and I just sat down and I sent John two sets of lyrics. One, If I Travel to the Past, the other, Torsetti. Like literally about a day later, he sends me like an MP3 of both of them. And
oh my God.
They were really good songs. And for a while we were talking about going into a studio and recording it ourselves, but it just never happened. And so when Chris Hoisington said to me, well, hey, what science fiction songs do you have? In addition to Alpha Centauri that I'd written in the year 2000 with Peter Rosenthal, I already had If I Travel to the Past and Torsetti written with John Anealio. By the way, Samantha was a brand new song.
Oh.
So I'm more of a rocker now than I ever was in my past. But yeah, I think John, has a great melodic sense. He writes instantly catchy tunes, and it worked very well, I think, with the lyrics here.
Oh, that's amazing. All right, so let's give it a listen now. This is on Paul's new album called Welcome Up, Songs of Space and Time, coming out very soon on Old Bear Records.
If I travel to the past to change your mind, so you love me then and you love me now, would I have known to travel back in the first place? If I traveled back so fast that the world was blind, could I slip through time, could I slip the vine? A paradox that turns the best into the worst case. It ain't simple, it ain't right to turn the sun into the darkest night. If I could make it work just one time, I could have it all, I could have you mine. If I traveled to the past, no, I'd never tell a single soul my lips would be sealed, except when they brushed against your sweet face. If I traveled to the past to change your mind, so you love me then and you love me now, would I have known to travel back in the first place? No, it ain't simple, it ain't right to turn the sun into the darkest night. If I could make it work just one time, I could have it all, I could make you mine. If only I could travel back through time. If sometimes a sighs welcome us. Stories below her window, she sees people puttering like pebbles on the street. Sunshine buttering the sidewalk neath their feet. Welcome us. Always reaching for the source. Always reaching something love. Gliding beyond the same drive. Stars are clear as day, although it's just past noon. Moons are plentiful and every crew's in tune. Welcome us. Soaring above the sunboard, lights an avenue for worlds that may be found. Life is teeming there in every crazy sound. Welcome us. Always reaching for the source. Always reaching what was lost. Riding until she can't stop. Never humorous, a trip is set on sand. What is the universe, and just where does it end? Welcome us. Where does it end? Where does it Time City, oh, you let me go too fast, throw my past, the winds and the fates of a sheer empty space. Time City, your doors met me, open wide, end of ride, and the swirls to the gates of an unfathomed place. Everything's bright at the speed of light, but I can't tell if it's cloudy or clear. Late or sad, we can only know what we already know, but he never took a spaceship out here. Tau City, no force at me, on its course, found and lost. I came to each of mine, a home free will. Tau City, don't forget me when I leave, just to leave. Blew through the halls of your soul, cosmic squall. Blew through the halls of your soul, cosmic squall.
All right, we're listening to Paul Levinson's new album, Welcome Up, Songs of Space and Time. And we just heard Tau Ceti and Welcome Up, and then If I Traveled to the Past. Now, up next, we're going to be listening to Cloudy Sunday. Can you tell me a little bit about that one, Paul?
First, let me tell you some very quick things about
Sure.
the previous songs.
Yeah, definitely.
Number one, at the end of both Torsetti and If I Travel to the Past, you'll hear an accordion.
Oh, yeah.
And in case that accordion
When that kicks
sounds
in.
familiar,
Oh, it's so
it's
good.
the same accordion that you'll hear in Antique Shop, The Coming of Winter, and it's played by the same person playing the same accordion. Back then in 1972, Donnie Frankel, now Don Frankel. Also part of Sundial Symphony with Robbie
okay.
Rist.
Yeah.
And so when I got the tracks, these songs, the final tracks, I said, I have to get Donnie on this. And I sent him those two, and he came up with those accordion parts. Second, about Welcome Up,
Yeah.
I started writing that song for Tina, who was then my girlfriend, in 1968. And all I wrote was the first verse. That's how it is with writing sometimes, you know. It wasn't that I wasn't inspired. I just, only had one verse.
Yeah.
I fell asleep on a bus in New York about a week later, and I had a dream that Paul McCartney came to me and said, "What's the matter with you, man? The next line is hiding behind the same drop," or something like that. Just rhymes same drop and raindrop.
Yeah.
And I said, "Hey, it's a good idea, Paul." But he didn't give me any other lyrics. So I added that line. And then it wasn't until we already had the deal of recording Welcome Up, and I had to put some science fiction songs together, that Tina, incredibly patient after all these years, said, "Don't you think it's time you finish
Oh, my
Welcome
God.
Up?" So that's how I
So
finished.
she knew the song, and it was
She knew-
unfinished.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Now, Cloudy Sunday that we're going to hear is yet another wild story. I wrote that song with Linda Kaplan, very talented woman, and you know her also. She wrote the song Skyscraper with me, a couple of other songs. She went on to have a huge hit with the Toys R Us. It was actually not a hit. It was a very successful commercial. I'm a Toys R Us kid. Anyhow, this was a song, Cloudy Sunday, and we got everybody in on the act. We got Peter Rosenthal to play guitar. We did a demo with just the guitar, and we got another woman by the name of Barbara Krupnick to play piano. Then we did a version with Linda singing it. Then we did a version with me singing it. And the cut on Welcome Up, I don't know if I should be saying this, but hey, I think it's a cool idea, is that very demo of me singing it with Pete Rosenthal playing guitar, Barbara Krupnick, whose name is now Barbara Turchin, playing piano. And I suggested to Chris, there was a lot of, crackly static, and
Yeah.
there's even some skips. Is there any way we can use that as the basis of, in effect, a new version of the song, and you do your magic? And he
That
said,
sounds amazing.
Yeah, and in fact, that's what he did. And a lot of people are saying that's their favorite cut on the song, on the album.
Yeah, it's
So,
amazing. And when it
yeah.
comes on, it's like it sounds so nostalgic.
Yeah.
It's great. All right, so we're going to hear Cloudy Sunday from Paul Levinson's new album, Welcome Up, here on WZBC.
Cloudy Sunday, I wake to find you gone. Cloudy Sunday, the bed I sleep upon is strangely smooth and white, touched only by me in the empty night. Cloudy Sunday, a fog upon my brain. Cloudy Sunday condenses into rain and tears begin to swirl. But you couldn't tell other in passing. But I'll keep searching for something more lasting, like a poet looking for the once in a lifetime ride. Cloudy Sunday, I glimpse a distant form. Cloudy Sunday, I sense that she is warm, but question what I feel. Reflection of me or something more real. Cloudy Sunday.
Cloudy Sunday, the bed I sleep upon is strangely smooth and white, touched only by me and the empty night. Cloudy Sunday, a fog upon my brain. Cloudy Sunday condenses into rain and tears begin to swell, 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 swell. But you couldn't tell that I loved you well. So we loved each other in passing. But I'll keep searching for something more lasting, like the poet looking for the once in a lifetime rhyme. Cloudy Sunday, I glimpse a distant form. Cloudy Sunday, I sense that he is warm, but question what I feel. Reflection of me or something more real. Cloudy Sunday.
All right, we have Paul Levinson in the studio tonight, and now we're going to listen to a couple songs from his solo album from 1972, Twice Upon a Rhyme. Now, do you want to talk about the songs we're about to listen to, Paul?
Sure. You said the first one is I'm Seeing You in a Different Light.
Yep.
Well, it's interesting because, you played If I Travel to the Past, and to me that always has like a slight country feel, like a folky country feel. I'm Seeing You in a Different Light was a deliberate attempt by Ed Fox and me to do a country song, I mean, in our own inimitable style. But most of the rest of Twice Upon a Rhyme is like psychedelic rock, little folky, like Today's Just Like You. But one of the things I always loved about Seeing You in a Different Light, sometimes, as I told you regarding Welcome Up, it can take 40 years to finish a song. Other times you get an idea and you just sit down and you write it literally in 5 minutes,
Yeah.
the lyrics. That's what I'm Seeing in a Different Light was like. I got the idea, hey, I'm seeing this woman in a different light. The first time that I saw her, but then suddenly, wow, and so I wrote that whole song very quickly. Ed wrote the music pretty quickly. Antique Shop was an interesting song because, again, Peter Rosenthal played guitar on all the tracks of Twice Upon a Rhyme, but I knew that he also had a talent in terms of writing music. So I gave him the lyrics of Antique Shop, and I frankly didn't know what to make of them, even though I wrote the lyrics. I had no idea what kind of music, and Pete came up with that melody. And among the many things of Antique Shop is, again, that great accordion by Donnie Frankel, Pete playing some wild fuzz guitar at the end.
Yeah.
So we had a good time doing that as well.
Yeah, and it's fun to dig a little deeper on this album. That's
Yeah.
maybe it's the accordion. There's something like drew me to these songs.
Yeah, well, the accordion is a very warm instrument.
Yeah.
It literally pulls people in, right?
All right, so we're going to listen to 2 songs from Paul's album, Twice Upon a Rhyme, here on WZBC.
Patches of light sneaking through the rusty leaves, brief snatches of sight, slipping past the autumn thieves, relics of summer psychedelics, and ever-dwindling splendor rouse around while the world dies down. Witness the coming of winter. Few flowers to smell, pretty face already shared. Few hours to tell, many things that might be said. Relics of summer psychedelics and ever-dwindling splendor rouse around while the world dies down. Witness the coming of winter. But don't let your mind stray too far. It might get hung up on a fading buttercup or tuned down to the music sound of half-forgotten scenes and the soft as cotton breeze. look at you tonight. I'm seeing you in a different light. I'm not sure what's occurring, but it all fits into place. Cause something warm is stirring as I gaze into your face. It's life that's advertising, the signs are big and bright. I'm seeing you, girl, in a different light. Pick a piece.
All right, we just heard from Paul Levinson's Twice Upon a Rhyme album from 1972 on Happy Sad Records. And we heard two songs that you don't really hear as much from that album. We heard Antique Shop, The Coming of Winter, and I'm Seeing You in a Different Light. And we've got Paul right here. How you doing? You like how I dug a little deeper on that album?
Yeah, I love it because as you just said, the Twice Upon a Rhyme is a big album, 13 songs. A lot of them are very long, and like a father to his children, I love all of them. But today is just like you looking for sunsets in the early morning. The Llama will be late this year. They're the ones who usually get most of the attention. But there are a lot of other beautiful songs there, and these two songs, "I'm Seeing You in a Different Light," our attempt to go like a little country.
Yeah.
Ed and I, and Antique Shop. Were part of what we were doing then also. An important difference between Twice Upon a Rhyme and Welcome Up, for better or worse, and we'll let the world decide, is Twice Upon a Rhyme was not only me singing, it was me.
Bunch of people.
A bunch of people, but me and Ed Fox, or Ed Fox and I, to be grammatically correct, producing it.
Yeah.
And it was also me doing all the harmonies along with Ed. So there are two significant differences there between Twice Upon a Rhyme and Welcome Up. In the case of Welcome Up, this is Chris Hoisington's production. It's how he heard the songs. And obviously, I love how he heard it.
Yeah.
But it's in many ways even more exciting when you have an incredibly talented guy or woman who understands, your music and brings it to life like that. But it's very different than when you are the producer. And then the other thing that people should know is, with one tiny exception, all the other voices on Welcome Up, other than my lead vocal, are Chris Hoisington, who is a genius when it comes to harmony. This is radically different from Twice Upon a Rhyme, where I did all the background voices with sometimes Ed Fox. By the way, the one difference, the one record that doesn't have Chris, only Chris doing harmony, on Welcome Up is Cloudy Sunday,
Yep.
where the very last time I say Cloudy Sunday, I basically stuck in Sunday, to get my voice in 2018 on that record. Yeah. So this is why I'm really loving hearing Twice Upon a Rhyme and Welcome Up, put together the way you're doing it.
Yeah. And we're doing this whole show reverse chronological order. I don't know if you noticed, but So now we're going back to what, 1970 or 68 for the Protozoa single.
Yeah, that would be 1968.
Okay,
Yeah.
and this is actually how I discovered your music, through Ring Around My Rosie.
It ruined your life.
Even my wife loves this song.
Oh, my God.
I know. Everyone I ever tell this story to, they're like, Ring Around My Rosie. Are you kidding me? But yeah, Paul was involved with this band Protozoa, and you told me...
They were originally called the Woolly Thumpers. There were about 5 or 6 guys who were going to college in State College, Pennsylvania, and they were in Manhattan, they went into Herb Abramson's studio. Herb Abramson formerly had been one of the co-owners of Atlantic Records, but he split with them and created his own studio, A1 Studios. Ed and I were recording there, and we were beginning to record Twice Upon a Rhyme, but one day Herb said, hey, listen to this. This group came in, they recorded this song. I think, this song could be a bubblegum hit record. What do you guys think? And the first thing I thought, who wants to listen to a bubblegum record? But I loved it. And so Ed and I and Herb, mostly me, produced Ring Around My Rosie. You can hear me wailing with some harmony, falsetto there in the background. And we sold it to Buddha Records. But I didn't like the name Woolly Thumpers. So I came up with the name Protozoa, sort of hearkening back to like my high school biology class.
It's the greatest name.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to hear Protozoa Ring Around My Rosie here on WZBC.
When I was just 4, I had a girl whose name was Rosie. Though I'm 4 no more, she's still the girl in my life. I like it that way, that's how it will stay. I love her so much, and that's why I say, I can't wait to put the ring around my Rosie. Gonna love her all my life. I can't wait to put the ring around my Rosie. Gonna take her for my wife. I can't wait to put the ring around my Rosie. We'll be like one. When we're older, we'll play ring around the Rosie, just like when we were young. We had so much fun, we always wanted to play house. And she'll be the one I'll pick for the rest of my life. And that's why I pray we'll marry someday. I love her so much, and that's why I say, I can't wait to put the ring around my Rosie. Gonna love her all my life. I can't wait to put the ring around my Rosie. Gonna take her for my wife. I can't wait to put the ring around my Rosie. We'll be like one. When we're older, we'll play ring around the Rosie, just like when we were young. Ring around the Rosie, ring around the Rosie, ring around the Rosie. pink hippopotamus got so entranced by your eyes. Yes, so it seems. And it seems that my hippo has chosen the girl of my dreams. So say I'm the one, and we'll give my hippo such a happy home. I always knew that my pink hippopotamus would find me a girl just like you. A girl who I want you to see. She's the one meant for you. And now that I know you, I know what he told me was true. So say I'm the one, and we'll give my hippo such a happy home. That my pink hippopotamus would find me a girl just like you.
She flies by
All right, that was Mary Goes Round from Trousers. We also heard Mary Goes Round by Sundial Symphony and the Protozoa 7-inch single on Buddha Records from 1968 with Ring Around My Rosie and My Pink Hippopotamus. And we have Paul Levinson in the studio. He was on all those records. Or, well...
I wrote all those records.
Wrote all those records.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's a real thrill. You have a genius in terms of putting things together. So the Sundial Symphony version of Mary Goes Round, the group Sundial Symphony is, in fact, as I mentioned earlier, Donnie Frankel, the same guy who played accordion back in 1972, and Robbie Rist from the Brady Bunch, whose cousin Oliver. And what's interesting about Mary Goes Round is Ed Fox and I wrote that. We didn't put it on Twice Upon a Rhyme because, again, we thought it was too bubblegummy. Yeah. And we thought we'd have a hit record. And so the second version you heard, the Trousers version, was, again, there was no group Trousers. We got a guy, Bruce Scott, in the studio, some studio singer. And he recorded a pretty good version of it. And Pete Rosenthal, again, is playing guitar in the background. By the way, Boris Midney, we talked about him. He's playing clarinet in the background. When you're that
Disco God.
That's right. So that was Trousers. Nothing much happened to it, but
because you put that on your own label.
I did. That's right. That's right. Happy Sad Records. Right.
Yeah.
It suffered the same fate as Twice Upon a Rhyme. Happy Sad was the name of the label, but the result was mostly sad in terms of sales. But Don always loved the song. And so after Sundial Symphony recorded Looking for Sunsets in the Early Morning and Today's Just Like You, they went in and recorded Mary Goes Round. And so that leads to another thing that I just wanted to give a brief shout out to. There's an incredibly cool record company out on the West Coast called Big Stir Records. Oh, okay. And they love Mary Goes Round. And they put out a single with the version of Mary Goes Round by Sundial Symphony that you just heard and their version of Looking for Sunsets in the Early Morning. Oh, okay. And it's been on a compilation album, and it's really cool. And they're really a cool company out there. So it always brings me great joy to think about these guys going into the studio doing these songs that, again, I hadn't thought of in 40 or 50 years.
Yeah, I know that one especially because it's like just went nowhere. It was like kind of your extra single that came out back then.
That's right.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're going back in time even further to The Other Voices, which did come out on a compilation. I think back when we first did the Spotlight.
Yes, that's right.
Come to the Sunshine, Soft Pop Nuggets. And do you have anything you want to say about this song?
Yeah, well, Andrew Sandoval is the one who put that album together. And he has, I think, a radio show now called Come to the Sunshine, a very cool guy. And May My Heart Be Cast in Stone wasn't written by me, one of the few songs that you hear me singing that wasn't written by me, but Ellie and Mike Rashkow loved it, and they brought it to our group, The Other Voices, originally the New Outlook. They changed the name. And so what you'll hear is Stu Nickman singing lead and Ira Margolis and I doing harmony in the background. And I think we sound pretty good. The harmony was really great. Hutch Davey, I think, was the name of the guy who arranged the orchestration that you hear on that record.
All right, so we're going to give a listen now to The Other Voices with Hung Up on Love.
I walked out into the world this morning. The sun was just up, the earth was still yawning. Yeah, I stalked out into the early morning, searching for something called love, searching for something called love.
skies are gonna be clear. Once upon a time, the cloak of night hung over me. Then I heard it chime, a stroke of light shone suddenly. Unbelievable, inconceivable, unbelievable, inconceivable. Warm as summer rain, sweet as candy cane too. You make my world bright, so bright, every morning and night. Unbelievable, inconceivable, unbelievable, inconceivable. Warm as summer rain, sweet as candy cane too. You make my world bright, so right, every morning and night. Unbelievable, inconceivable,
All right, we just heard from the Vogues with Unbelievable, Inconceivable You. Do you have anything you want to talk about with that one?
Yeah, well, that one I wrote the words and music to.
Oh, yeah?
And I thought I was going to become rich and famous when the Vogues recorded it. But at the last minute, they got a new producer who decided they wanted the Vogues to go more like in a classic Letterman fashion. And they did Turn Around, Look at Me instead of Unbelievable. That was a beautiful song, Turn Around, Look at Me, but it wasn't my song. But I should also mention that first song I was talking about, May My Heart Be Cast in the Stone. Actually, you played Hung Up on Love, which I'm happy about because that song I did write the lyrics to with Mikey Harris. And that's not Stu Nidickman singing lead. Believe it or not, the lead voice there is Mike Rashkow, who wasn't thrilled with the way Stu was doing the lead, so he went into the studio in the dark of night and put in his own lead.
Oh, my God.
And then we didn't know about it until it was released.
Whoa.
And Stu was furious. But so...
All right, so we're coming to the close to this Paul Levinson spotlight, and we're going back in time to one of his first songs with the Emeralds, The Park at Night. And then we're going to play one that I just liked a lot called Sunshine Mine, which kind of has like a sort of a little bit later, Lovin' Spoonful type sound. Right. Do you want to talk about those a little bit?
The Park at Night was the first song I ever wrote.
Well, there you go.
I wrote it with Paul Gorman, who's now living on a farm someplace in Vermont. And I wrote the lyrics. What else is new? He wrote the music. And we went in and recorded that. Paul Gorman's father actually brought us into a professional studio.
Oh, wow.
Shelled out a couple $100 back then.
And this is like 1963, right?
Exactly. And Sunshine Mind was a song that I always loved. I thought it could be a,
Well, no, we're playing Sunshine Mine.
Sunshine Mind or Sunshine's Mine?
Sunshine's Mine.
Okay, see, I wrote two songs that exactly sound the same. Sunshine's Mine is a song I wrote with Stu Nidickman, and when we were still called The New Outlook, we went in and I think we paid for that studio time out of our own pockets. We recorded that little demo that you're going to hear.
All right, and then after these songs, we might have a little secret demo coming up, too. That's a brand new song, so stay tuned for that. But right now, we got the Emeralds with The Park at Night here on WZBC.
Each day when it's getting dark, my heart skips a beat. For then I go into the park where we always meet. If you don't know what to do, just take your baby with you. in a park at night. Some people like to kiss, some people like to dance. For me, there's only one place where I can find romance. The park at night, it's out of sight. It seems alright, the park at night. So if someday you feel so blue, there's just one thing that you can do. See the park at night. Some people like to kiss, some people like to dance. For me, there's only one place where I can find romance. The park at night, your heart is died. Till thunder and light, the park at night. So if someday you feel so blue, there's just one thing that you can do. See the park at night. See the park at night.
Winds of winter chill the air, snow and frost are everywhere. Earth is bare, but I don't care. Sunshine girl, you make my world a groovy place to live in. When you shine, you bend my mind and make my life worth living. Sunshine smile. Big black rain clouds fill the sky. Thunder claps, babies cry. Totally unconcerned at all. Sunshine girl, you make my world a groovy place to live in. When you shine, you bend my mind and make my life worth living. Oh, sunshine smile. Sunshine girl, you make my world a groovy place to live in. When you shine, you bend my mind and make my life worth living. Oh, sunshine smile. And sunshine smile.
All right, you're listening to the Paul Levinson Spotlight tonight, and we have one more song.
Walking around taking pictures on the phone. I don't wanna be alone today. Can't hear a sound. Life's as quiet as a stone. Just a flicker on a drone away. My best friends are only on the screen. True lovers can't be touched or seen. And snow on the ground makes a cushion for the night. Perfect border for the sight of you. Far from the town, you're beyond the reach of light. Dancing pixels in the light.
And that brings us around to now. That was a new demo from Paul Levinson, Pictures on the Phone, hopefully from a new album that he'll be working on soon. But right now, he has a new album coming out called Welcome Up, Songs of Space and Time. Coming out on Old Bear Records, I think February. So take a look for that. And thanks for listening to the Paul Levinson Spotlight tonight.
The Light on Light Through podcast.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that little journey. By the way, you can now get the album, Welcome Up, Songs of Space and Time, on digital, on Bandcamp, on a limited edition multicolor vinyl. This is being distributed by Light in the Attic. I'm really delighted about that. So just go to the Old Bear page on Light in the Attic and you'll find how you can get these limited, I think only 100 copies were printed up, limited edition of Welcome Up. And you can also get a CD if that's the way you like listening to music. And on that web page that I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast on lightonlightthrough.com, I'll put in links to all three places. And I'll be back here soon with another episode of Light On, Light Through. In the meantime, enjoy.
Athens, 2042 AD. She ripped the paper in half, then ripped the halves, then ripped what was left again into bits and pieces of history that could have been. Sierra Waters had read once that, years ago, it was thought that men made love for the thrill, while women made love for the sense of connection it gave them.
Curled Up with a Good Book says, Sierra Waters is sexy as hell. You can find out more about The Plot to Save Socrates by Paul Levinson at theplottosavesocrates.com.
Paul Levinson's Silk Code, about an ancient biotech war raging on in secret for centuries.